Welcome to this week's episode of the Business of Real Estate Podcast with Lynn Hoffmann and Eric Johnson. Today is all about referrals. Are you really struggling to get referrals? Are you looking to connect with new people? We get these questions all the time, and I think the number one thing that people overlook is how to generate referrals from their existing database. We're going to be talking about that today in the Business of Real Estate Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Lynn, we're talking everything referrals. We were having a really nice discussion here just before we started filming this, and it's not a complicated thing, but I think it is something that a lot of people want those referrals, but they don't know how to go about it. And so we need to help some people out here today and help them start generating some good quality referrals. You're a firm believer. I know that because I know you're our Buffini guru, if you will, and a lot of Buffini's program has been built on generating referrals.
It's all built on generating referrals,
Yeah.
generating leads. It's all it is. We are in the lead generating business. That's what we do. Generating leads.
Yep. And I think, for a lot of you, and I know I get this question asked a lot. I swear to God, every day I must get somebody say, "Hey, Eric, what can I do to generate new leads?" They want to get new people. And
I get a better question.
What's that?
When I'm trying to hire them, I'll say, "How many leads are you going to give me if I come to your brokerage?" Zero.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, yes, we do have some lead generation stuff, but it's not.
That's a difference.
Yeah. And I think that the biggest thing is when somebody asks me that question, I ask, "How are you working your database?" And more often than not, when we dig down, they're really not working their own database.
No.
And it's just they're not getting that feedback, or I'm doing some social media, I'm not getting stuff back, and I say, well, there is a difference between marketing and prospecting on social media. But I do want to focus this week on just how do you generate referrals? And I think the biggest thing that people miss out on is that when they say, "Hey, I want to talk to new people," these people that I'm talking to in my database, they're not buying or selling. Well, of course,
you think.
right? Because if you look at any region, anywhere in the world, I don't care where you are, there's, thousands, if not, tens of thousands of homes in your region, but only a few hundred sell each month. So yeah, the majority of people are not buying or selling. So when I reach out to people, of course, the majority of them are not buying or selling. But here's the thing. They may know the ones who are buying and selling. So while your people you may have taken great care of them, you help them buy that house, they know they have friends and family that are looking to buy, and you don't know who they are. So they are new to you. And so I look at it as, Lynn, I remember working with, we had Rav Badial on previous episode, and as a regional director for BNI, one of the things we talked about is the trust factor. When we do business through referrals versus trying to get somebody new, I have to try and teach or get them to know, like, and trust me. Whereas if I have somebody that I know in my database, if they already know, like, and trust me, when they give me somebody new to me, that trust from them rubs off on that other person, and so now it makes it easier to get the sale.
100%.
So for me, it makes more sense to do things by referral rather than trying to get a complete stranger to like me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what are some of the key steps? If somebody said, "Lynn, I need to build a referral program," where do you start?
Well, one of the places is people that you've known before, and if you haven't done any real estate business before, that is a little trickier. You've got to go back to people that know you or you've worked with before in a past life or whatever. But that database is a relational database to me, and that's your pot of gold. And it is a pot of gold. And I don't know why, I haven't figured this completely out yet, but people don't go to their pot of gold. They go to online leads. They go to cold telephone calls. They go to passive aggressive mailings. They throw money out and just hope something happens, instead of going back into the pot of gold in that database of people that know you, love you, have worked with you before, know your character, know who you are. The only reason that I have ever been able to figure out why people don't go back into that is, one, they think they messed something up in that relationship before and the people are not going to want to see them, and that's not true. You are a gift. You were a gift to these people. Go back and visit them. They want to see you. Don't be afraid of that. So a lot of it is the fear of rejection, the fear of I'm bothering them. Oh my God, do I hear that a lot? I'm bothering them because I sent them great information. No, you're not. You've got to look.
If they don't send great information, they probably are bugging them if they don't bring something of value.
You should always bring something of value.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like going to a housewarming without having just one hand. You always take something to a housewarming, right? Or you go for Christmas, you take something with you. Take something with you. We have tons of great things, stats, reports, articles, pretty pictures, all sorts of stuff to take with you. So don't be afraid of that. But you've got to go back and talk to the people in your pot of gold. You need to sort your pot of gold and categorize your pot of gold into who shouldn't be on that list anymore, who should be, who loves you the most, and who would refer you whether or not you've ever bought or sold anything with them. And they exist in your life. You just haven't gone to look for them yet. So go look for them and then ask them the big question. If you were buying or selling a home, do you have a realtor you would use, or am I the realtor you would still use? Either way, folks, you're getting an answer. The only reason I think they don't do it is because they don't want the answer. They would rather just go about doing stuff and not know.
Yep.
Because it's easier not to know than it is to know and then move on and do something else. So, each person you know knows 285 more people. So you have 10 people, that's 28,000 people that know somebody. For the love of God, you know somebody out there that would refer you if you ask. And just talk to people.
Yep.
The one thing that our speaker said the other day, and I was laughing because Eric is wearing his pin. I have my button on the back. When you have those on and you're anywhere, in a lineup, at a car wash, walking the dog, walking the child, whatever, you're in business. You're open for business. That is an opening statement. And that's really all you need, is to have something like that and to talk to people.
I think, the big thing is talking to people. I remember a stat, I was saying, as you were talking, it reminded me of a stat. So we used to say, and I mentioned about BNI earlier, is that there was a stat that was used all the time, is that 95 to 90% of businesses want to do business by referral because it's low cost. I'm not paying a ton of money in advertising, et cetera. But only 5% or less have a written plan for how to generate referrals. So people want referrals, but they don't set up a system to generate that. And I think, one of the key things, you mentioned it, people are afraid to ask. I think that also people are afraid to have conversations around referrals, and not necessarily afraid for what they ask, but they don't know what to say. And I think, if you are a brand new agent, if you are a brand new agent and you're saying, well, Eric, I haven't done business, how do I generate these referrals? You have done business, you have had interactions with other people, and we've had brand new agents that they get a mini website with us, and they'll put on, I've seen testimonials where they talk about the character of the person. They've worked with them on a charity, et cetera, and they have nothing but great words to say. So there are ways that you can generate referrals even if you haven't done business. So don't fret it. Don't think, well, I'm brand new, I can't do this. No, you can. But, there's a few things. And so let's start with this one, is that when you're looking for other people to generate referrals, I'm going to ask you this, is that when you're talking to somebody, number one, ask them, listen, if we were to go into a restaurant and I see you over sitting with a friend and I wave and I say hi And then I go to my table, and that person turns to you and says, "Hey, who is that?" What would you say to them? I want to ask them that question. So I want to hear how they are,
Yes.
presenting me, or what would they say? Would they just say, "Hey, that's Eric, he's a realtor," which puts you in the realm of 100,000 other realtors, so I'm just one of many.
120.
Or no, that is so and so. They are they are my realtor. They do this, that, or go above and beyond. Like, how do they present you? What do you want them to say? So it's teaching others on how to refer you.
Yes.
And then also let them know, I think it's important that, Lynn, is that it's not just here's who I am looking for, but here's who I don't want. Because there are some people that I don't want to work with.
Yeah.
And so it's important that you had said before in a previous episode that you want to reward the behavior.
Yes.
So, but I want to, thank you so much. I just want to give you some feedback. This maybe was not the best referral, etc. But that was some of the things we used to teach in generating referrals is find out what they are saying about you, and then letting them know, here's who I am looking for, here's who I don't want to talk to, because look, there are agents out there that don't want to do leases, so don't give those to me type of thing. I'm not saying that's a good decision to make.
You're training someone how to refer you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will refer you if shown how to refer.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they really don't understand how you make a living either. And I know we all think that's crazy because we think everybody knows everything about us, but we don't. They don't. The other thing we were just talking about a little bit about that is make sure you remind them that you're not too busy to take their business.
Thank you.
Because I'll tell you, from long experience, agents drive nice cars. We get to wear nice clothes. When we're talking about the industry, we go, oh my God, it's crazy. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. They're not going to refer you if they think they're going to make you crazier, right? You've got to treat them as if they're the only person on the planet for that moment in time when you're talking to them. Just let them know you're not too busy. One of my agents came to me and told me a story of his from a few years ago, where when he was at the top of his game in numbers, his clients thought he was too busy and just didn't think he needed the business. And it wasn't until he lost a few that he realized, hey, I'm sending out the wrong message. I don't mean to be sending out the wrong message, but I'm sending out the wrong message. I'm looking like I'm too busy. And that will happen in certain price points too, where you may have you may work in a higher level price point and people think you don't want a lower level price point, which you may still want. I mean, everybody wants business with good clients. So just be careful the message you're sending out subliminally to people. And again, if you haven't talked to them for 2 years, no big deal. Write them a letter, send them a postcard, pop by their house with a something, and say, I'm really sorry we've lost touch. I want to get back in touch. I've got some great information. Whatever you want to do to be genuine and authentic about rekindling that information. That relationship is worth a lot to you, more than you'll really ever realize it's worth to you. And it's such an easy, pleasant way to go back to the people that you have a warm, friendly relationship with. Instead of looking for a cold online lead or looking to your broker manager to give you some leads, which are going to probably be pretty cold as well, because we don't get hot leads like that, not like you get from your own friends and family and circle of people. But you have to educate people. You have to teach them what it is you're looking for, show them you do a good job, and then go back and rinse, repeat, do it again. It's not rocket science, guys. It really isn't. It's so simple, and everybody overcomplicates it.
The concept is simple, but applying it can be a little difficult depending on what habits you've built up. And so now this is about building some new habits. And you mentioned about people thinking you're too busy. How often, and I know one of our other managers here at our two brokerages, her and I have worked with new agents, and one of the things she always said is, stop saying things are busy. People always say, so how's business? Well, I'm really busy. Well, then maybe you're too busy for more business. And so it's finding another way. Things are very steady. Things are going great. Things are great. always looking to work with more people, whatever. You're just little teasers to say, hey, I'm looking for those connections. But it is about, building those relationships. And I think back to a plug here for the Workman Success Systems. It was one of the programs that I was teaching here at the brokerage, and they had a program called their Top 50. And this is where I think when you build a system, I don't care what system you use, but Feeney, Workman, Ferry, Richard Robin, all of these big coaching companies, they have systems. And they all work, and they all same stuff presented slightly differently. And they had the program. He talked about Top 50, and it was, here's what you do, and where you reached out to them once a month, and what you tried to do was you would have, one of the things he said is, we're talking to people all the time. If I have my database and I know you're a painter, and I get I'm talking to somebody, they're looking for a painter, I'm going to refer somebody in my top 50. I let them know what I'm doing. I invite them to all my client events. And they knew from tracking, and this was interesting to me, was that they, on average, they generate 83 referrals from their top 50. They knew that so many of them would generate 3 referrals a year, so many would generate 1 referral a year, and there was, on the 50, there was about 5 that would not generate any referrals. And so they talked about replacing them.
Yes.
If I'm not getting any, then I'm going to get 5 more where I could generate. And so it was a plan. And I don't care, you don't have to follow that exact plan, but here's the thing. There was a plan, they tracked results, they worked a system, they tracked the results, they saw what they got, and they said, hey, let's build on this and be consistent. It's not to say that, okay, I give everything to that top 50. I'm also reaching out to the other people, maybe not once a month, once every 3 months, but it was the idea of generating and letting them know that you are looking for referrals. And that was the part. Key part.
And we talk about that. If I do the Buffini course, there's different pillars of business, and obviously your trades are one of them. As agents, I know myself, I give people referrals all day long to different trades. People are always asking me who's a great painter, who's a good electrician, who's a good person to do this, that, and the other. I'm always referring people, referring our mortgage people, our lawyers. So think about what you refer every day and who you refer every day. You ever thought about asking them if they've ever thought about referring you in that process? There should be something reciprocal here. I mean, some people have a little bit of a trouble with that because they may know, 123,000 realtors, so they can't do it all the time. But there is a reciprocality to that, and that should be something you should be looking at as well. But you're always giving out referrals. And why you give out referrals is because you can trust that person to go do a good job for that client. Just do that in reverse. Maybe create a group of your trades that you refer, get them together for muffins and coffee in the morning, and start making your own little BNI group just informally, and look for ways to generate more leads and warm, comfortable leads from doing a good job with people and people who understand who you are and what kind of service you're going to provide. So, again, not rocket science, just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of thought, but you should be looking at 2 things in your sphere of people and I'm talking the dry cleaning company, your housekeeper, your dog walker, all the people in your life. Look at all those people, who they are. Put them on your list. You should be looking at who you refer to, your trades, and all those people as well, and start creating some sort of a list and then sorting and qualifying them as to how much you think that they would refer you by themselves, which would make them an A+, and how much they would refer if they were told how, which might be a B or a C, right? And then generating new people coming into the system through open houses, through some of the passive-aggressive stuff. But don't rely totally on that passive-aggressive part. You've got to get out there and talk to people. And famously, this business is a contact sport. It requires talking to people. People that love to talk. They make lots of friends. And sure enough, the word gets out there. And that's really what you need to do. And then train people and reward them for what they've done, the activity, not the result. And keep going on with that.
And I think, if you're sitting there going, okay, it sounds all good, it's pretty simple, as you said. It's not rocket science, but how do I get started?
Talk to people.
And not just talking to people, but when you do talk to people, deliver some value. One of the things I'll say to somebody is, if I look to help somebody out and provide something of value, law of reciprocity says that they're going to want to help me in return.
Exactly.
And there's a number of ways to do this. 100%. So I've talked to agents about where they can, if I'm just going for coffee, let's say I'm meeting with Lynn, what I might do is look up some stats and look what's happening to the value of homes in her neighborhood. And I might say, hey, Lynn, just for fun, I just thought, I'd pull this up and just share with you what's happening. And you take a look at it and say, Lynn, did you find that valuable? And I would ask, do you have any friends or family members that you think would find this type of information valuable? Maybe we could get together for another coffee meeting and you bring them along. And so now I'm teaching them how to bring somebody. I'm going to provide that information for them. I'm providing value. And if they find it valuable, then they tell somebody else. Maybe I get connected to more people. And so the more people I provide value for, the more connections I get. And I think it's important that also that, it's not just that providing a value, it's building that relationship, as you said,
100%.
because it's not going to happen on the first try.
No, it won't.
We got to build, you can't be a transactional agent, meaning that you do the business, forget about it. We got to keep in touch. You mentioned, I call it the apology script, when we haven't been in touch for a while, getting back together.
It's such a nice way to do business, though. You're going for a coffee because you genuinely like the person you're going for the coffee with, and you're talking. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If you ask somebody what they do for a living, or how their week is going, or what's going on in their life, they're going to sit there and tell you everything. And when they're done, they're going to look at you and say, how's your week going? What are you doing? What's going on in your world? Or they may ask you what you do for a living, at which point then you get to use what Eric just said to you. You go at it from that way. So if you, and I've done Buffini with mortgage managers and all sorts of people.
Yep.
And the best one for me, a fellow who now is extremely successful, doesn't need to do all this anymore. But for the longest time, he and his wife would make a lasagna and have a lasagna day at my office. And they would always drop off gifts. They would be there to support the awards ceremonies. They would be there to support any events that we had. They were always there giving and giving and giving. And finally, I hear the words, oh, I gotta find a deal for him. I gotta get him in front of some people. Because that law that says if you're really great to people, they will be great back to you in return. You just can't expect it in 2 seconds. You don't plant the tree and pull it out by the roots and go, oh, it didn't grow. Leave the tree in the ground for a while. Let it grow. Let it develop. And it will if you nurture it and you support it and you are kind to it. It will develop.
Yep.
And then when they're ready to do something, you will be the first call they make. And I do this with my recruiting all the time. I get calls from people I've been talking to for 4 or 5 years that they'll call me one day and go, we're ready. Now we're going to move. We're going to come over. That didn't happen last week. And it didn't happen by me calling or you calling and going, hey, do you want to sell your house? You want to sell your house? That's not going to get you there. It's not going to get you there.
No,
I'm hearing an amen in your
yes.
in
Oh
what
yeah.
you're saying.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say,
I can see the amen in that one. No.
The number one thing I hate about referral system is when I hear an agent say, "Hey, if you know of anyone looking to buy or sell," and whenever I ask people, what are your results like with that? And it's usually not very well. I don't get that many. And I say to people, think about family members and the people on your street where you live. How many times have you seen a sign go in the lawn where you go, oh, I didn't know they were thinking of selling? And especially if you're a realtor and it's on your street.
Client.
Oh my goodness.
Or the one you think is your client.
Yeah, or even family members, right?
Yeah.
Because let's face it, there are some family members that don't want you to know the sort of the financial situations, whatever. But here's the simple fact, is that it's proven, there's research out there that says most people, there's only about a handful, maybe 5 people that you will share, there's such extreme trust that you share your life with. Okay? You have complete trust in. Even though you know a lot of people, and there's some people that get close to that, but there's only about a handful of people that will know that, that person is thinking of buying or selling. So I don't necessarily want to lead with that question. What people will share, though, are those big life events. And so I always talk about triggers. You want some good referrals, then think about the triggers that makes people or puts them on the path to selling their home or wanting to buy a home, right? Things like getting married, having a baby, getting a major promotion.
Moving across country.
Yeah, they could be downsizing, they could become empty nesters. A partner goes into long-term health care, a partner dies.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different triggers that force people to buy or sell. And so when you're asking for something, I always say, if you know somebody in this situation, could you please introduce me? I'd love an introduction because everybody will brag about how their last child is moving away from home. A lot of people will brag about getting that new promotion or I'm retiring. They'll tell everybody and anybody that they're retiring in so many months.
Yeah.
There are so many more people sharing that information than telling, if they're thinking of selling, that you're better off, your odds are better by focusing on the triggers. So I would say that's one thing to do is focus on those triggers because that'll get you a lot more. And then when they do introduce, what do you have to offer them? So what's that value, right? That value add. It's not just, because you're maybe thinking of selling down the road. No. Hey, you're becoming an empty nester. You might make changes to the home, and maybe it takes down the value, right? So I can help save them some money, or I can connect them with some great people, whatever it is.
You've got to find their motivation. But you reminded me of another program that I used to teach a lot, and for the ones that didn't like saying the way you were saying it there. So David Knox, great coach and trainer, used to watch all his videos, used to train his courses as well. And one of the favorite lines, I used it one time in a office meeting, and I had 2 agents that went out that afternoon and used the dialogue, and they both got names, and it was just simply, who do you know? Who do you know that might be thinking of moving? Who do you know? And but there was a session where they had a live agent sit with a headset on at her desk. She was making calls. And she just used that line. And she did that for a few hours. And the number of names that she generated, simply put, one was about 2 doctors. They were just practicing to get their full licenses. And they were making move-ups. They were doing different things. And other people were making a downsize. But what she found out that day, just by using that simple phrase, who do you know that might be thinking of buying or selling? People stopped and started to think, and they actually responded to the question by trying to answer it for her. And they were rhyming off names. Okay, is that a terrible thing to say? Who do you know that might be moving? Eric, who do you know that might be moving?
Me? No.
Right, well.
I am, actually.
but it's really simple. So there's lots of ways to get the message out, is what I think Eric and I are both trying to say.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways around saying what you got to say, but don't reinvent the wheel. Say it so you find out. You need questions that require an answer, not a no. You need a question that requires a response. You need to phrase it in such a way that you're going to get a response back that you can work with and something that you can continue to craft and move on with. And you need to be genuinely interested in people and have a plan to provide great service and show them through all the wonderful things that we do, show them how smart you are and how successful you are and that you have a full service team behind you helping you every step of the way. So I think that it's, don't be afraid to fail, because you said that in the beginning.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to add to that is if you haven't failed, you haven't learned anything either.
You're not trying hard enough.
You're not doing anything. You're not learning anything. If you haven't failed, you haven't learned anything. If you were a toddler or a crawler across the floor like a baby, and every time you stood up, you fell down, which you do as a toddler, you never walk because you get defeated by falling down. Be that little kid inside of you that says, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to walk no matter what it takes to get to the other side of the room. I'm going to walk. Don't quit.
Yep.
Because if you don't fail, you haven't tried. And I'm not trying to be mean, but it's true. You need to fail your way to success and ask the right questions and then do something with the answers.
Yeah, and I think, one thing to add on to this, we talked about the fact that when you meet with people, how do they introduce you or how do they present
Right.
you? What do they say to their people? So that's one step. But the other step is, we assume that people know how to refer us. We assume people know what to say, but most people don't.
What's the acronym for assume?
I'm not going there. But
You all know what it is.
yes. So, but here's the thing is that when we think people know how to refer us, again, I go back to, are they just simply saying, hey, that's Lynn Hoffmann, she's a realtor, and that just lumps her in with 100,000 other realtors?
Right.
Or do they say something different? And then the other part of it is that when we do get somebody, hey, who do you know that might be thinking, however your approach is, you're going to get a name. Now, most people are going to assume they know how to, connect you. And so let's work. You need to work with that person and help them refer you. So you're going to work out a plan on how they're going to introduce you. Do you want them to introduce you by email? Do you want to meet up and have coffee or something with a person? There are different types of referrals, and one of them is just giving a name and number and saying, hey, call this person. The other is, can you let your person know that I will be calling them or have them call me? There is a personal introduction, etc. Here's why I say that. I've seen cases where somebody they were talking with somebody, they mentioned a need. This person made note of it, and they referred somebody, and they said, hey, I got a referral for you. Joe Blow over here is looking for this. And so I remember this person, we were in a networking group, and they called. They were told to call this person, so he calls them up. And they said, who are you? Why are you calling? And to protect names here, Kevin told me to give you a call. Who's Kevin? So it was interesting right then and there. This person, Kevin, did business with this person. They obviously did such an amazing job that this person couldn't remember their name. And they're going, why the hell are you calling me? And that just was not a good experience.
No.
So it's very important that you teach people on how to refer you and not just give you a name and number and that person's not expecting you to call, because that's a completely cold call. You're thinking it's warm and it's not. So it's important, again, you'll hear me say it over and over because I like systems. This is about crafting a system that teaches people on how to refer you. And if you want to be successful in referrals, you need to build that system. Yeah. Right? As Lynn said, it's not that difficult, but if we don't have a system, then we are going to be inconsistent in our efforts. We're going to get mixed results and we'll think it doesn't work. But when you do something consistently and you can somewhat automate some of that stuff, then it becomes a great system that we can scale. And
track.
Yeah, and being able, part of that system is tracking, right? It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
And because then I know exactly how to follow up, when I'm going to follow up. That's the important part but have that system have that conversation around how they're going to connect you. And you do it how you would prefer. To me, it's always better if somehow we can get together in person, because it is easy. There's a saying out there that if you want somebody to help you out, I need to ask, like if I needed Lynn to help me out with some charity or volunteer thing, if I ask her in person, it's harder for her to say no than if I just send her an email. She goes, sorry, I'm too busy. But if she has to look me in the eye and tell me that and she's lying, it could be a little more difficult for her. So
it's harder to say no in person.
It is.
And also I get a better sense of what it is you're doing. I might find what you're doing more compelling when you tell me the story about it in person.
Exactly.
Instead of on an email.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that, and text is even worse. So, I still think voice to voice, face to face, person to person is the best way to go. It really is. It's a contact sport. And that's the one part that AI, God bless us, will never take away, is that person to person trust. But you can implement some of these other things
Yeah.
to help it go smoother, more systematized, but person to person, talk to people.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to talk to people. I haven't figured that one out yet either. Like, what are you scared of?
Yeah, this is
What are you
sales.
scared of?
Sales is about belly to belly, face to face conversations. I say to people, never, I don't think this has ever happened in the history of real estate where somebody got a postcard and said, called the salesperson up and said, no need to meet, just come put a sign in my yard.
Oh, it never happens.
That never happens. You have to have conversations. And so it's having the conversation to build the relationship. And so, again, if you want to do business, again, majority of people, 95 to 97% of businesses out there, not just real estate, they want to do business through referrals, but less than 5% actually have a written plan.
But millennials really like referrals too. They're even bigger on referrals than baby boomers are. They're always looking for referrals and testimonials and stuff. So, this is a great opportunity to get out there and talk to people. But
You're so right on there with the millennials, because I remember somebody sharing that
they love.
When people,
They're loyal too.
70+% of people, when they go to buy something, they check what other friends are saying.
Exactly.
Right?
100% on that one, 100%. I had a very funny one happen the other day. So I'm a big believer in personal notes. Our guest speaker the other day was a big believer in personal notes. I would challenge anybody who receives mail to throw out a small invitation-sized card that's written with a stamp on it. I challenge you to throw that in the waste bucket before you open it. I challenge you, because I don't think you'll do it. I don't think anybody will. But then this person said to me, well, there's a company that will write your personal notes for you. And I'm like, okay, that's it. So now you want to take a personal note and make it an impersonal note by having an AI generate the damn personal note. That just defeats the whole purpose. The whole purpose in your personal note is to say something like, it was great talking to you on the phone today. I'm really glad your kid made the hockey team, right? Something, whatever it was, or great about going to see Taylor Swift, have a great time, whatever. But those things cannot be AI generated, folks. They can't.
No.
You need to put the little bit of effort in to show the people that you've listened to what they said and you heard them and you like them and you want to do business with them.
And it's like that saying goes, what's old is new again. Everybody's doing these things, but nobody's going.
Go read Dale Carnegie's book on sales.
Yeah.
Go read some of these old timers books, because I went to a, what do you call that thing? The ninja training in South Carolina for a little bit. I've heard it all before. I've heard all of it.
Yeah.
Even Ron's stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he packaged it. He had some funny stories. He had some great stories, but it was all the same stuff.
And
so however you want to digest it and however you want to take it in, just the point is take it in. It doesn't matter how you get on the bus, just get on the bus. That's all.
It's so true.
I'm sorry.
Just get on that bus.
Just get on the bus.
On that bus.
However you do it, and that's the same thing where we started out in our other session talking about the two gentlemen, both huge successes. They were both on the bus, but they didn't get on the bus the same way.
Yeah. And she's referring to our last episode. We were talking about number one team, number one individual, and how their businesses were completely different. Yeah. But, it doesn't matter how you want to do your business, but the key thing is have a plan. Don't make it overly complicated. It's pretty simple, is that if I want to do business by referral, you are going to, one, have a conversation with them, get to know needs and wants, and deliver some value, and then don't be afraid to ask. And find out how they introduce you, or would present you to somebody if you came across them. Teach people on what to say. Teach people on how to give you referrals. If you teach them to do that, they in turn will start being able to give you referrals. Because I guarantee you, a lot of people will refer you. They just don't know how.
Yes.
They just don't know 100%. How. So you just need to teach them. It's as simple as that. And it's just having a candid conversation. And if they believe that you deliver great value and that you are a great realtor, somebody that their friends and family, they believe in the service you gave them, and they would like to see their friends and family receive the same level of service, then it's just having a conversation, people. It really is. So we hope that you go out there, you build a system for generating referrals. Simply work that database. If you're not working your database effectively, rather than go after strangers, I'd encourage you to go back and find a way to work that database effectively to generate referrals, because they will generate new people for you. Your contacts may know them, but you don't, so they're new to you. And so for me, that is a quicker way to generate business, is going through that database.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Well, apparently there's nothing more to say, because it is.
I think we've said it all.
So listen, everybody, we thank you for joining us this week on the Business Real Estate Podcast. Please like, subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. We so look forward to seeing you and hearing from you. So please reach out, send us an email. We want to hear from you. Tbore, Tbore at rmxemail.net. We want to hear comments. We want to hear suggestions for future episodes. But again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the Business Real Estate Podcast.